Me and my sister decided to move out. Like, we figured out a plan. We got our first jobs at 18. We started saving money and doing what we needed to do. And me and my sister got a place together, and we did not look back. It was just one of those things that I made a promise to myself and just, silently to my mom, like, we gonna be straight. Me and my siblings is gonna be straight. I'm just irritated with having to be in a whole other state, and I done got my husband. Why I gotta be in a whole other state? So I'm grateful that I sent her back and kind of got that time to really reevaluate. And also because the first year of marriage was really, really hard. Like, when they say the first year of marriage is trying and gonna test you, I'm here to admit to that. I'm here to agree with that statement. Listen, I have faith and I trust in God, and I believe that whatever is meant to be is going to be. You might look in your best shape and might feel in your best shape, but when grief come knocking at your door, you ain't none of that. Like, it's just... Hey, you guys, welcome back to my first official episode of Gems with DQ, and I'm so glad that you guys have decided to make your return. If you are a continuing subscriber, thank you so much. As always, I really appreciate the love and support. And if you are new here, hello, welcome. I am Diamond Quenshay, and this is my podcast, Gems with DQ, where we talk all things womanhood, motherhood, marriage, lifestyle, family, all that good stuff revolving around my life and my experiences. You're going to get here on my platform. There will be times where there are special guests, but in this episode, it will just be me. I want to go ahead and start out the first episode just chit-chatting about me for you guys to dive a little bit deeper. If you've been following my channel for a while, you probably know bits and pieces of my life, but I actually never sat down and really dove into one video of who I am, where I come from, what's my childhood like. What was it like growing up for me? I felt like in order for me to even start out this podcast, it wouldn't be right to not talk about those things. So this episode is going to be a little bit about me and kind of dive deeper into where I am now in life and what's to come. I would like to start my podcast off with different types of drinks, and I would like to do my best to kind of tell you guys what I'm sipping on and what are the ingredients inside. So today for my drink, since we're filming a early Sunday morning podcast, it is a matcha latte. Absolutely love my matcha latte. I use jade leaf matcha, and usually for my matcha I take about 4 ounces of the actual matcha based liquid, and then I either put my ice and then sweet foam on top, or I also add a little bit of creamer, a little bit of oat milk, and then I make my heavy cold foam on top. So that is my drink of choice for today. Listen, this time I came prepared. Like, I got me a notebook, because picking up my phone and trying to read off of it while also using my phone as my microphone, it was just too much already. I was like, I can already see this as a problem. And in my last episode, the mic kind of went out. So I'm like, we're not doing that again. Hello, in today's video about me, let's start with the obvious question. My name is Diamond. I go by Diamond Quenshay on all social media platforms, along with my business name as far as my brand, because Diamond Quenshay is my first and middle name. So that is how I came about with Diamond Quenshay, Gems with DQ. So my name is Diamond. I am 28 years old, and I am a Cancer, born in July, honey. Born and raised in Georgia. All my life, all I knew was my little small hometown growing up until I was about 20 years old, when things kind of shifted for me in life. So I grew up in a small town. I was raised in a 2-parent household, not by my real father, but I was raised by my mom and my stepdad carried on throughout my life, raising me as if I was his own child, because my dad was like, I was around my dad's side of the family a lot, but I feel like at that time my dad was just young, figuring his life out, not doing what he's supposed to do as a parent. So I was around my dad's side of the family, but I'm not going to sit up here and say that my dad was just always present in my life. It's like our relationship is just, one of those roller coasters. It's like, not, you ain't no full blown deadbeat daddy, but you ain't no present dad. So that is kind of the background history. I grew up with my mom and my stepdad. He was in my life starting from the age 2. And I also have 8 other siblings. My mom ended up having a total of 9 kids, 6 girls and 3 boys. That is crazy. But where do I fall in that category? I am the second oldest, but your girl just be playing the role as if she's the oldest. But it's cool because my big sister is that girl. Like, I felt like she carried that throne throughout our whole childhood. Like, she went through a lot with helping raise us. And if you're an older sibling, you really know what this feel like. I got a pinch of what it felt like because I'm the second oldest, but I just feel like nobody had it the way she had it. So as I kind of got older and I moved back home after being away for about 5 years living in another state, I felt like, you know what, I can take over a little bit. I can step in a bit more. I can do more. So that is kind of how I have kind of stepped into that role as a bigger sibling too, the oldest sibling too. And I absolutely love it. But obviously, as time go on, eventually the older siblings just get fed up in general and they kind of duck off and go MIA and start doing their own thing and realizing that their younger siblings are crazy, and we just stopped caring. So that's kind of how that went for us. But I have always grown up in the house with all of my siblings. We're all close. We were all pretty close growing up. Like, I'm talking about sticking together. One fight, we all fight type stuff. And it was the same way after my mom passed. I felt like we were so close. We were so strong. We talk more than ever. We started telling each other we love each other because we didn't grow up in a super affectionate household. So going through grief, I feel like that really opened that up for us. But I feel like as time went on, people are kind of close when grief first hit you. But as time go on, I feel like it kind of fade away and you kind of lose some of that connection. So I'm really working on building that connection and creating a full community and a vibe when it comes to my siblings, because it was just one of those things that I made a promise to myself and just, silently to my mom, like, we gonna be straight. Me and my siblings is gonna be straight. So we'll get back to where we originally started when she first passed away. I feel like it just takes some time and people are just figuring their lives out right now. And that is perfectly okay. We all still reside in the same town. We kind of live in like a big circle within each other. I don't think any of us live more than like 5 miles away from each other. So that is perfect that we're all still within reach of each other. So I really appreciate that, being able to see them when I want to. Being that I grew up in a household with a lot of siblings with 2 working parents, obviously I had to grow up a little bit faster. And on top of that, I became a teen mom at a young age. So I felt like growing up, I grew into adulthood pretty quickly. I matured pretty quickly. And that's not only from becoming a mom at a young age. It was also, like I said, coming from helping raise siblings, basically. We had each other. We was parenting each other sometimes. Like, when your parents got to go to work, there was no daycares. It was like, get in this house and don't let nobody in my house while I'm gone, and like type vibe. So that's the type of vibe. It can become a bit much. So I remember, like, growing up, me and my older sibling, we were always like, we lost a lot of our childhood. We lost a lot of our childhood helping raise our siblings. Like, we couldn't do the regular traditional things that other teenagers did at our age in school, like go to the movie theaters, get dropped off at the skating rink, get dropped off at restaurants. Like, stuff like that, we weren't allowed to do that. First of all, my mom did not drive. Second of all, she was strict and she just didn't trust what was going on out there. And third of all, we had to watch our siblings because our parents worked a lot. I am actually grateful now, knowing what I know, what half of those kids who are adults now talked about what they were doing at those places that they were being dropped off at. I completely understand. Like, a lot of stuff that our parents protected us from or told us we couldn't do that we were mad about at first, I 100% understand why parents do some of the things that they do. And it's literally just to protect their kids. And we just didn't realize until we were older. So me and my sister decided at a very young age, I'm pretty sure it was like when I was 18 or 19, I was already had been a mom for like 4 years, maybe at that point, 3 or 4 years. We just decided, like, look, we can't take this no more. It's annoying being in this house with so many siblings. You don't really have no privacy like that. You're doing a lot of babysitting. You just not living your life. And at this point, I'm grown. I've graduated. I should be living my life. I should be going off to college and doing what everybody else is. People at my age, I should be doing all those things, but I wasn't. Me and my sister decided to move out. Like, we figured out a plan. We got our first jobs at 18. We started saving money and doing what we needed to do. And me and my sister got a place together, and we did not look back ever since. Like, when I tell you, when we moved out, my mom was so upset. She was just like, but is that even necessary? Like, that was just so unnecessary. So she had an attitude with us on our whole move out day, y'all. But that's just Black parents. Like, You just mad because we leaving and dipping out on you and your feelings hurt. Like, my mom was not at all one of those parents who was like, oh, you need to get out of my house by this age. No, my mama was one of those parents like, oh, my kids can stay with me until they're old and gray, which I thought was crazy because I'm not doing that. I am not doing that. We moved into this apartment, and let me talk about the rent for a little bit because I got to talk about it, because the fact that rent is the price that it is now is crazy, because I just be like, damn, can't relate, baby, can't relate. When me and my sister moved into our first apartment in Georgia together, it was a 2-bedroom, 2-bathroom, roommate style apartment. That apartment was $750 a month, and we were splitting that in half. When I tell you we was living our best lives, like having our own spot. I got my kid. My sister hadn't had a kid just yet in our apartment, but she was pregnant and eventually ended up having a kid. So me and my sister had it all planned out. Like, we said, we gonna get this apartment temporarily just to get approved for something, to get our feet wet, get some stuff in our name, just come up with a plan. After our lease is up in 3 to 6 months, I want to say, we're going to move into a house. We're going to rent a house for a year just so we have rental history and get our credit right. After we finish renting that house for a year, we are going to buy a home together. This was all in the plans together. It was never with a man. It was never with the intention that we were eventually going to get married. Like, we didn't live like that. I knew one day I wanted a family, a marriage. I at that point, I didn't want kids at one point, but I knew I wanted that part of my life, but I was not going to put my life on hold and not buy a house and not move out and do certain things just because I didn't have any of those things yet at a young age. I'm like, nope, me and my sister can do it. It's so many of my siblings. We can all just really team up. And eventually down the line, we wanted to, we could just buy multiple properties and, do it the smart way. While we were living in that house, I was dating my current husband now. I was dating Jazar. We were very serious, but it was a long distance relationship. And we had been dating for a while at that point. At that point in that house, we had been dating for about 3 years. By the time we moved into that house, almost 4 years, because a few months after moving into that house, he ended up coming home to visit. We didn't end up staying in the house for a year. Jazar came home to visit a few months after we moved in to our lease. He was spending the night with us, everything, and he ended up eventually proposing when he came to visit. When he proposed, it was originally the plan to not get married until another year. So I'm like, yes, I'm gonna still stay with my sister. Girl, you good. Like, we might not be able to buy a house together, but we can go ahead and finish out this 1-year lease. But that did not happen, child. Me and that man got engaged, and we just had a whole dilemma that, like, why we gotta wait a whole year to get married? Like, why do we have to wait a year? What's the hold up? Why? Because we waiting on our families. We waiting to show other people for a ceremony and all that. But the thing about it is, neither one of us did not want a ceremony at that time. We didn't want a ceremony. We just wanted to be married. So you know what we did? After we said all that and laid up in the bed, we called the courthouse and we scheduled our appointment to go get married 2 days later on a Wednesday. Listen, we was not playing. 2-3 days later, we was scheduled and got engaged that weekend and was scheduled to be married a couple days later. That was such a crazy ride, because it's like, in our head, we excited. It ain't nobody business. We can get married if we want to. We grown. But with him, my family was on board. They just like, do what you want. Most of my family had been married at a young age. They did not mind. They were all doing their own thing. Most of them had got married in the courthouse. They didn't do traditional wedding. So my family is like, I'm on board. They weren't available because they didn't get time to take off work, because we decided to get married at the last minute. My family was on board. They was in support of it. My husband had already asked everybody who he needed to ask, and they were down. They were, okay, let's go, let's do this. But on the other hand, his family, child, they was not feeling it. They was not into it. It was just the whole fact of the whole missing out piece. Nothing just personal or negative around getting married. It was just the fact that your family can't be there. They got to miss out. That was the whole spiel of that. I feel like that'll be a whole nother story time when Jazar is actually here on the episode. So stay tuned for that. And like I said, through all this, I still had one kid because I became a teen mom at a young age. I have posted a full video of how that happened. I'll probably sit down and kind of retell the story or kind of give a little gist. But some of those story times I actually want to tell when Jazar is on some of the episodes. But if you would like to see how I end up becoming a mom at such a young age, that is on my channel. Yeah, that story time is very crazy, very wild. But yes, at this point, I'm engaged, couple days later, we're married, and I already brought a kid into the relationship prior to. So we get married, and I'm just like, you know what? I'm gonna wait a few months. I'll wait a few months still, like at least try to wait until our lease is up for this house that we just got not too long ago. I'm gonna try to wait until a few months, and then I'll move to my husband, because at this point he my husband. So I'm just like, okay, I'm gonna just wait and I'm gonna move. Child, that didn't happen. I was anxious. We couldn't wait. Neither one of us could wait. So he just like, all right, I'm gonna get your ticket. I think I was supposed to leave like 3 months later, maybe 3 months later, if not a little bit more than that. So he got my ticket. I'm like, all right, cool. As time go on, I'm working at a job that I'm frustrated at. I'm like, I'm just irritated with having to be in a whole other state, and I done got my husband. Why I gotta be in a whole other state? So we both antsy, like, yes, I know, right? Like, why you can't just come here now to Cali? So I'm just like, you know what? Book my ticket even closer. So I think at that point, I booked my ticket to leave like 2 months later, or maybe a month and a half later. Then, of course, I had that whole moment again, like, why we gotta keep waiting? Like, we both had that whole moment. So he just like canceled that ticket, booked me another ticket closer, and baby, I'm telling y'all, in about 2-3 weeks, I was on a flight to California with my bags packed and was not looking back. You hear me? Bags packed, not looking back. I'm ready. I'm ready. I am ready. Okay. So I packed my bags. Well, at this point, I already talked to my mom about my daughter. She was like 4 or 5. I was like 4 or 5 at the time. And I just thought it was in my best interest to go to California for me and Jazar to look for a place to stay, look for a home first, because it was a whole roommate situation at first when we first moved there, until we got our own spot, get a little bit of stability, get her registered into school, find her a nice daycare, all of those good things. We did all of that before, not the daycare, we did do the school though. We did all of those things before I decided to move her. So she did stay in Georgia back with my mom for about 2 to 3 months until I came back to pick her up. So I eventually came back after I was in California for about 2 to 3 months. I was staying in Oceanside, California, and I came back to get my girl Ty, and we came back, and I ended up finding a job and everything to start my life in California. Found a job, found a school, found a house, found all that good stuff, but daycare. Daycare was a big issue for us. Like, first, Ty was not old enough to get into a regular register into pre-K because of the age restriction, and you know how they talk about your birthday being late and all that. So I had to do the whole daycare route. It was really hard. It's really hard to get your kid into military daycares because it is a wait list, and I just felt like everything was rushed. She couldn't get into the daycare by our house. I had to go to another neighborhood to get into the daycare. Everything just felt so rushed. We kind of did that and let that whole situation play out with her for about 2 months living in California, 2 or 3 months. And then I'm like, okay, we got the house. I got the school in mind, and I got the daycare in mind that I want her to go to. But these things are not available, and I'm not willing to settle. And I just feel like I'm still chaotic and I'm all over the place. And my parents at this point are like missing their grandchild. They're not used to having to go without their grandchild. And I'm just venting to my mom about it. And she just like, you could just send Ty back until you figure it out. Listen, that lady was my rock, because when I tell you, she been riding with me for my whole life, especially when she found out that I was having a kid young. The initial reaction was horrible, and I don't fault her for that. Like, it's your child getting pregnant at a young age. But when I tell you, my mom rode for me for everything when it came to being a mom and just getting shit done and me being successful, she was there. So she was just like, no, like, Ty gonna be good. Just send her back. She was doing just fine here. And in the back of my mind, I'm just like, I'm getting antsy. Like, I'm a mom. I'm not a mom who abandoned her kids, who just go off and chase after some man. Like, I didn't want to see it like that. So it was hard for a while for me to unsee it like that. I'm grateful that I sent her back and kind of got that time to really reevaluate. And also because the first year of marriage was really, really hard. Like, when they say the first year of marriage is trying and gonna test you, I'm here to admit to that. I'm here to agree with that statement. So I'm really grateful to have like the first 6-7 months kind of really just focusing and getting to know each other and getting rid of some of those toxic ways and just learn how to be better before actually bringing a kid into the house anyway. So after a while, I was fine. I just learned to enjoy the moment, enjoy where I was. I'm a good mom. I'm taking care of my kid, even from another state. I'm doing what I'm supposed to do. But we ended up staying in California for about 5 years total, almost 5 years. My husband ended up having a medical condition. He has autoimmune disease known as lupus. He have talked about it multiple times, but for people who are new here, I have talked about it previously, but that's what ended up happening. My husband had every intention to pretty much retire from the military. That was his career in his head. It was plan A. He only had plan A and plan A only. This is what I'm going to do. This is what I'm going to do. This is what I'm going to see for my life. But things shift. God has other plans, and the only way is his way. So what ended up happening is he ended up having to retire from the military. And at first we were so stressed out. Like we didn't know a life outside of like him being in the military, him knowing exactly what job he gonna go to, knowing what his paycheck is gonna look like, me knowing what job I'm gonna be at every day. It was so different on top of us having a baby, being pregnant. During that time of him finding out that he was gonna be possibly having to separate from the military, baby, I'm pregnant. I am pregnant. Full blown pregnant. Listen, I have faith and I trust in God, and I believe that whatever is meant to be is going to be. So it was a lot to come back, like pick my husband up from that situation. But when I tell you everything worked out in our favor, he did end up retiring from the military, and that was okay. It was obviously sad. It was obviously bittersweet. It was obviously a hard moment for him. But as far as the blessings and everything that came with that, we wouldn't change that for the world. Like we wouldn't change that. That his plan A might have not went through, but when I tell you plan B worked out a whole lot better, worked out a lot more in our favor. We was able to move back home closer and be around our family and connect with our family. I was able to connect with our family. I was able to vibe with my siblings. You know, I was able to help people financially. We were able to buy our first house. I was just able to create so many memories and experiences that I had missed out on for all those years of being in another state. I was just like, wow, the light at the end of the tunnel has finally arrived. The light at the end of the tunnel, where we thought the career ending and all that was just going to be the biggest stressor, but it's like, no, everything ended up working out just fine. So we moved back here in 2019. The end of 2020 is when it hit the fan. When I tell y'all I was on the road to the best year of my life, I'm talking about in December. I'm talking about thirsty January 1st to talk about how 2020 was the best year of my life. That's what I'm talking about. Like, it was a vibe being here back home. And then, unfortunately, at the end of 2020, in December, my grandfather was found unresponsive. It's my mom's father. He was found unresponsive. And about 10 days later, he ended up passing away right before New Year's. We did not get to spend Christmas or anything with him. We were able to spend one last Thanksgiving, but right before New Year's, my granddad passed away. And that was really, really hard on my family because, like I said, I have a close-knit. Not only do I have a group of close-knit siblings, my whole family was close-knit at this point. We're all like tight. We're all in cahoots with each other. We all hang out. We all vibe. We all connect. So it took a huge toll on my family to lose my grandfather. And eventually we kind of start bouncing back and things were getting back to normal from that. And then COVID got even worse. During that time, it was COVID was out. COVID was around. But COVID got even worse. The numbers were crazy. I'm talking about 9 months down the line later after losing my grandfather. COVID got very crazy. Life got very crazy. People were dying left and right from COVID. And 9 months later, my mom and my whole family ended up catching COVID. And we thought that it was just going to be one of those things where, okay, everybody got COVID. We're going to ride this out. We're going to quarantine. You quarantine over here in your house. Y'all quarantine over here. But unfortunately, that happened for all of us. But my mom was not able to handle having COVID. And essentially, it landed her in the hospital for over 30 days, where eventually she ended up losing her life to COVID pneumonia. This was 9 months after my grandfather had passed. When I tell y'all, it was it was the most hardest thing that I ever had to go through. But also that time felt like such a blur. When you're losing somebody close to you, I honestly feel like everything feels so fake. Like you're in an episode of a movie scene and a lot is just happening and you're literally functioning, but you don't know how. Because I was in charge of getting all the affairs in order, all the financial affairs and everything that needed to be done. I was in charge of all that. The hospital decision, all of that stuff I was in charge of, planning out the funeral, in charge of obituary, everything down to every last detail of making sure my mom leave this earth in a beautiful way and her name be remembered. That was my job. And I don't know how I did it. Even to this day, I'll be like, I don't know how I did it. I don't know what survival mode or la la land I was living in, but it did not feel real. It was like I wiped those tears, I picked my head up, and I did what I had to do. But obviously, as time go on afterwards, you're going to deal with the effects that have on you. Grief has a huge effect, and it takes a huge toll. And it's not, oh, some toll that's going to be happening for a few months, a year. No, it's like grief is a roller coaster. It is a never ending loophole where sometimes you are good and sometimes you are not okay. But during those times where you are not okay, you have to give yourself the most grace because you're going to need it more than ever. I will honestly say grief is really what changed and remolded and reshaped my whole life. I started looking at life so differently. It really taught me how short life was, and that's what led me into. So my life quickly then turned from catching the vibe, living my best life, living and being back home around my family, to I need to figure my life out. Life is too short. I cannot look back this many years from now and I still don't have the very things that I said that I would be doing, or I don't have, or I'm not doing the things that I said that I would do. So that's when I really just feel like I reevaluated my whole life. Grief will make you do that. Losing people will make you do that. Like, I'm just like, life is too short. I need to start taking care of myself, my health. I need to really be strict about that when it comes to my household. Like, this healthy lifestyle has to be a priority in my life. I need to stop playing around in school and I need to get my degree, because 3 years prior to that, I had applied to college in a bachelor's program for GSU. I didn't get approved because I didn't have a plan on how I was even graduating to get the associate's degree. I didn't have a plan on even going past an associate's degree. I was just like, fuck this. Like, school is pointless. I don't want nothing to do with this. This is a scam. But after going through all that, I sat my ass down. I literally locked in, shut out the world, because at the end of the day, most of that noise was negative noise anyways. Most of those people were mean me no good, didn't mean me no good. They were using me. So I literally shut the world out. I wrote out a plan about how I was going to get my degree. And after I finished that associate's degree, how I was going to get the next degree, how I was going to get my life in order, health and wellness wise, how I was going to lose weight. When I tell you, there was no stopping me, there was no stopping me. And once again, I do not even know how I had the strength to do all of that after losing somebody. It gave me another unfound motivation that I never even thought I had. But like I said, during those times, there were times where I would be going so hard and doing so good. And when grief come knocking at your door, you can't ignore grief, baby. You might be doing so good. You might done lost the weight. You might done caught a vibe. You might look in your best shape and might feel in your best shape. But when grief come knocking at your door, you ain't none of that. Like, it just knock you off your feet. You just feel like, what did I do all this work for the past 3 years? I have felt like I've been in a roller coaster with grief. Like, I'll be doing good, and then some type of important moment or milestone comes up, and it reminds me of my mom, and then boom, I'm just like, forget the whole world. I want to go take a nap. I want to go take a nap. I don't want to go to the gym. I don't want to do nothing. But as far as like, how am I now? I'm coming up on 3 years of grief. 3 years since losing my mom. How am I now? Anyways, now I'm good. I am doing just fine. I am rolling with the punches. I'm taking life one day at a time. I'm still a college student. I have obtained my degree and I am getting ready to go back into college, into an undergraduate program to continue on with my degree and get all the degrees that I didn't even think I was capable of obtaining. I'm still on my health and wellness journey. I no longer eat meat, which I'm so excited about. 2 days, it'll officially be a whole month since I have strictly been without any meat in any of my meals. And I'm so excited. I'm so excited for this journey and to just get other people on board and just educate regarding that. And I have hobbies. I still go to the gym. I take pole classes. And I just get into other things. I've been networking with other people. I hang out sometimes. I go out to other gyms. I hang out with other people. Life has just been good for me. Even when life ain't good, it's still good because God is good all the time. So I just try to be grateful for that. And I just focus on taking everything a day at a time, because that's all we can do. We be trying to take on too much stuff. We be trying to do too much stuff. And that is not okay. And that's my message to y'all too. You can only handle what you can handle. Stop carrying a load that wasn't even meant for you to carry. Stop putting things in your hand that was never meant to be in your hands. The second you feel like you're in control and you got it all figured out is the second that God gonna start steering that ship in the way that you didn't even expect. And you know why? Because you're not being obedient. You're not trusting him. You're not putting it all in his hand. And that is really the message, basically. I'm doing good mentally. I do want to start talking about, like, on a scale from 1 to 10, how are you mentally? On a scale from 1 to 10, I would say I'm a level 8, and I give myself an 8 because I feel like I've been slacking a lot, and it's not even for a valid reason. It's just more so like I'm tired. I'm really tired, but I feel like I could do better when it comes to being in the gym and being like really locked in on this homeschool stuff as I should be. But that is the goal. I got small goals this week to accomplish, and I already know I'm going to accomplish them. I do want to end out some of my videos with a verse of the day, but today is not going to be that. I actually want to read over the verse, study the verse, talk about what I took from it, and then I'll be able to incorporate that into my videos. But for now, that is pretty much it. I hope you guys enjoyed this little story time, a little backstory about me and where I come from before I really start getting into the nitty gritty things. But thank you guys so much for tuning in. And as always, give this video a thumbs up, subscribe to my channel, and thank you so much for taking the time to watch. And I will see you guys next Sunday. Bye.